Morning Mindset, a daily dose of practical wit and wisdom with a professional educator and trainer, Amazon best-selling author, United States Marine, television and radio host, Paul G. Markle. Each episode will focus on positive and productive ways to strengthen your mindset and help you improve your relationships, career goals, and overall well-being. Please welcome your host, Paul G. Markle.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Morning Mindset Podcast. You are too kind. You are far too kind. Thank you. Thank you very much. What are we going to talk about today? That is an excellent question as I drop my notes on the floor. That's okay. I think I know what I was going to talk about. Right now, as I record this, our nation, the nation of the United States of America, and the entire world, I know that there may be some people listening overseas, are going through a difficult time. We're going through a national strain, a worldwide strain, and we need to talk about a little bit of mental maintenance. Mental maintenance. How are you faring? How are you dealing with this? And are you spending all your time focusing on the negative? Yes, I mean, that's a serious question. Do you spend all of your time on Facebook or with the television on, watching a constant stream of bad news from the mainstream news media? If that is the case, you are not doing yourself any good. Unless you are a scientist and you have a cure, you probably don't need to focus on the problem 24 hours a day. You need to focus a little bit more on your own mental maintenance. And we're going to talk today about how we can do that. Let's talk today a little bit about how we can, well, take care of a little bit of mental maintenance for ourselves. Well, number one, I'm just going to basically say how I do it, and you can do it any way you want. Number one, I am diving back into my music collection. If you've listened to me for a while, and if you know anything about Paul Markle and Student of the Gun and my production and so forth, I like music from my era. I like new music. I like old music. I like music. Now, I have my own particular taste, but I think my tastes are pretty broad. And what I started doing several years ago, now, I'm an older gentleman, not really old, but I'm old enough to remember when music came on record albums, those black vinyl things that spun around and around and around, and you put a needle on it, and music came out the other end. I remember that because I actually owned many records and record players, and when I was in high school, I was a DJ. Yes, I was a DJ in high school, and I spun the hits, and I used to DJ the high school dances and so forth. So many years ago, I started reacquiring records. Over the years, I had my record collection went away. I went in the Marine Corps, and a lot of my personal possessions just ended up, they vanished into the ether. So I started reacquiring records, and I was gifted a record player by my wife for Christmas a few years ago. And what I've got right now in my office/studio is I've got my record player set up. I've got the stereo, I've got my albums, and I've been reacquainting myself with that music. And that is one of the ways that I conduct mental maintenance, because it makes me feel good. It makes me remember a time in this nation when it wasn't quite as bad as it is now, when we had a little bit more freedom, when people were a little bit more sane, when they weren't quite so willing to become victims. They weren't quite so willing to be victims. And that helps me. That helps me. That keeps me from having to focus on the constant troubles and problems and so forth. I refuse to become a victim of the news. I refuse to do that. I refuse to embrace the mob mentality and be continuously worried and scared all of the time. Another way that I am conducting mental maintenance is by reading. I have, and I've recommended this to you guys for, a long time, is to actually have real, genuine, dead tree. That's right, paper. Now, I know a lot of you guys like your Kindles or your Nooks, or I don't know if Nook is even still a thing, but your tablet readers. I get that. And it's super convenient, and you can put lots and lots of books, files in there, and so forth. But I still like to sit down, brew a cup of coffee, find some quiet time, and read an actual book. Yes, an actual book. One of those paper things. Now, I do a lot of historical reading, and I do a lot of educational reading, and so I always have a highlighter and a pencil nearby. So I am the ultimate, and it's a good thing that there aren't. I don't go to libraries too much anymore, because I am the ultimate book vandalizer. Yes, if I have a book, it's particularly if it's an educational piece or a historical piece or something like that, I am constantly scribbling notes in the margins. I'm constantly underlining and highlighting passages and so forth, so that when I go back later, I can find that reference quite easily. So I recommend, if you are reading one of my books, and I always say at the not always, but most of the time at the very beginning, I will advise you in the introduction to get a highlighter, get a pencil or a pen. I usually recommend pencil for making notes in books. Get a pencil and have it ready, because when you read one of my books, I want you to be a book vandalizer. I want you to be writing in the margins. I want you to highlight things. I want you to go back and reference it time and time again, and that's a good thing. So that is another part of my mental maintenance, is writing. Now, going back to the music theme, I have a couple of guitars. When I was young, like most teenagers in the 1980s, I acquired a guitar. I got it from... It was a second, third, fourth hand guitar. I don't even think it had a brand name on it. It was one of those generic guitars that you just got your hands on, when you were a teenager. And back then there was no YouTube. There weren't any instructional videos that you could get. You either had professional lessons from a teacher or an instructor, or you just made it up as you went along. And that's what most teenagers did, and that's what I did. And I made some noise, right? I had a guitar, and I made noise with it. I wasn't very skilled at it. And then I joined the Marine Corps, and the guitar went the way of the winds, and I don't know where it went. It doesn't really matter. But several years ago, I decided, you know what? I've accomplished some things in my life, and I have enough mental discipline now. I think I have enough mental discipline to get a guitar and to actually start learning how to play it. And so I did. I got a guitar, and I went to YouTube, like you do. I went on to YouTube, and there, believe it or not, there are several fantastic tutorials, and there are channels. Some are better than others. There are a few channels where it's just the guy showing off, and he doesn't really help you learn. But then there are a few others that are really good sources of educational information. They break it down very slowly. They do close-ups of the fingering and the picking and so forth. And I've found that I can do it now. Maybe if there was YouTube when I was a teenager. Of course, if there was YouTube when I was a teenager, I probably wouldn't have experienced all the fantastic, wonderful things that I experienced. I probably would have spent too much time in my house. But the fact of the matter is, that is another part of my mental maintenance. Sometimes I will grab one of my guitars. I don't have that many, and just plug my headphones into my amplifier so that my wife doesn't have to listen to it, and just play and practice. And listening to people practice a musical instrument is not fun. Because when you practice a musical instrument, you basically just go over the same thing over and over and over and over again until you've perfected it, or at least, gotten close to perfection. And that's fine for you, but it's not so great for other people. Which is why I often just use the headphones with the amplifier. But that is part of my mental maintenance as well. And the last part of my mental maintenance, and this has been something that I've been struggling to get set up because we've been so busy. As you know, we recently relocated. We're in another house in Wyoming, beautiful Wyoming. We're up in the mountains, but we moved into a brand new house. And like most of the time, when you move into a brand new house, there's lots of things to be done. There are little repairs to be made, and there are upkeep and painting and this and that. And that's exactly what we've been doing. And because of that, it took me a while to get back into my gym and exercise routine, my training routine. But I have been able to do that. I know you're very happy for me. But that is, I guess, that'll be the last part of the puzzle that I discussed today. There's a lot more, but being physically active. If you are staying at home, if you're not one of those people who's traveling to back and forth to work every day, if you're just basically staying at home and around home, you got to get up off the couch, man. You got to get out of bed. You got to get off the couch. You cannot spend your entire life in your pajamas on the couch playing Call of Duty. Now, not that Call of Duty is a bad thing, but you can't do it all day long every day. You need to get your butt up, and you need to do something physical. And a lot of you guys out there, if you took my recommendations over the years, you probably have a home gym or a home fitness center. I do. I've got I have a training center in my garage with a squat rack and a bench and weights, and I'm using those as another part of my mental maintenance. You're like, well, that's physical maintenance, Paul. That's not mental. They blend together. Trust me, brothers and sisters, they work together very well. So what I want you to do today, this is my assignment to you, is I want you to deliberately and purposely think about what you are going to do to maintain your mental fitness. What are you going to do for mental maintenance today? And sitting around all day long on Facebook or sitting around all day long with the television on, watching the horror that spews forth from the mainstream media is not good for your mental health. Do something creative, read a book, write a book, play an instrument, get out and do something physical. If you don't have a home gym, do other physical things. Maybe now might be a good time for you to tackle that. You've been wanting to repaint the den or the family room or the living room or whatever. Maybe now might be a good time to do that. Get your mind off of it. So focus on the positive, not the negative, and take the time to work on your own mental maintenance. That is your homework assignment for today. All right, kids, I am your host, Paul Markle, and I will talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for spending time with us today. To get show notes, submit a topic request, and for more from your host, Paul G. Markle, visit morningmindsetpodcast.com. That's morningmindsetpodcast.com. Please leave a review for this podcast on your favorite podcast player. We appreciate your time and effort, and we look forward to reading your honest feedback.